What is the hybrid setup that you've concocted in your space, and how does that all work? How does it happen? What's the experience?
Yeah. So I tried to talk the church out of doing hybrid because it's so much work. It's so much work. And I think when I talk with other groups, I just say, it's okay to say no to hybrid. Like it is fine because it's not going to be sustainable for every place. Not every community is going to be able to pull it off well. And, it's a lot of work. And so,
it's a big
our
risk.
church was like,
let's take something that was really good in person and something that's really good online. And is it still good if we put them together? Or does it just make both of them suck a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of like blended services, right? I mean, I've never been a blended service fan. And it's because it's like, okay, so it's fine. Well, I don't want worship to just be fun. Yeah. I want it to be like I've been trying to tell folks, like, as we move forward, if we're going to grow, people have to miss not being here. And if we just create a mediocre experience, then that's not compelling. In any case, so I did try to talk about it because I knew that I did not want to just stream. I did not just want to have people watch into a space. Now, I know that's fine for some, but the strength of our online experience has been the interactivity and using the platform and really having people kind of feel like you're in the same space. So where we landed with our hybrid was really defining it as no matter how you join us, whether you're in person or you're on Zoom, you'll have essentially the same experience. There will be different things, obviously, but it'll change for the people who are in person. If they remember what it was like, it's going to change. And for our Zoom that we've been doing for 18 months, that's also going to change. And so we're kind of creating a new third space. The problem we have, like many churches, is our sound and technology was built well done, and this is a church that has some resources, well done for an organ and a choir where you don't have to mic the organ or the choir. And, you have mics and you have a small little board, but you are not really thinking about zooming out, right? That was not so. So we know that the future is a big redo, but this is an older congregation who doesn't just want to plunk down thousands of dollars because Bruce has a cool idea. We want to think this. So I joke with them that it's kind of put together with tablets and duct tape, and that's not too far from the truth. But what we've done. We figured out the sound, because I actually think the sound from most sanctuaries to go out to Zoom is pretty easy to do once you just have somebody that understands signal flow. That's all I needed to know when our sound. And then we hired a part-time sound person who understood that, got our sound worked out. And we have basically 6 tablets put in various parts of the sanctuary so that wherever you're standing to speak in the sanctuary, you kind of have a Zoom view for the people on Zoom. So we didn't do one camera at the back and try to zoom. We didn't get a PTZ and all those kind of things. We pan tilt zoom camera. We just decided we're going to try to create a Zoom experience for the people who are on Zoom from the people who are in the sanctuary. And we put on gallery as much as we can, all the people who are on Zoom up on our screens so that they know they're there. We do a volleying back and forth with our prayer time. We've really tried to say, what's the third space now? Like, how do we not focus, make the in-person, the penultimate space, or the ultimate space, or the Zoom space, the ultimate space? So I will eventually, we always have a liturgist or the preacher off-site. So we're really trying to avoid having both of them on one platform. So I'll preach from my office at the church, once a month, so that I can hang out with people on Zoom afterwards. And our liturgists will, right now with Omicron, our liturgists are all staying home, which is fine. And so, so we tried to really create the third space, work with what we have. And when we can make a bigger commitment, we will do that. I mean, I think that's, again, we're not trying to be too fancy. Just like we spent a couple $1,000s on equipment and staff, and are trying to just make it feel as genuine as possible and as authentic to who we are as a congregation.
Well, I love so much about that. The sense of, of the preacher liturgist, you always make sure they're split. That is just modeling some sense of, we're sharing these spaces. We're not giving privilege to one over the other. It's like, yeah, sorry, online people, you're always getting seconds. But explain. So the 6 tablets are those, I'm guessing, are then cameras. So and they're set up so like if I'm standing up to speak, I could be looking at a tablet basically.
Yes, so we've got them positioned where, so during the prayers of the people, they're looking right at the tablet because they're in so if you're in the sanctuary, you're looking at the tablet, so you're seen on Zoom. And then, so it's funny because they're facing towards the front of the sanctuary, but their big faces are up on the screens, so the people sitting in the pews are actually looking up at here when the person's actually just to the right of them standing in the middle of the aisle. So it's a little funky, and it's been interesting. At one point, our Zoom people said, Bruce, it looks like you're just looking at the people in the sanctuary. And I'm like, yeah, we got to figure. So the way the pulpits are built and the way you can put cameras high enough or have them directed where it doesn't look like you're just looking at the people in the sanctuary only. We've stopped using our pulpit and our lectern, and now I'm down in the center because it makes my eye contact both Zoom and the congregation who's there, and so that's an adjustment we made. We also made some adjustments around like how we go about calling on people and some other pieces, but we've really tried to make it so that I acknowledge the Zoom people. I do a thing for the Zoom. I'll look at the Zoom camera and say, for you Zoom folks, here's what you need to know about today. And then for you here, here's what you need to know. So the announcement's a little longer, but I think it's important to acknowledge. And then I say, and for the third space where we're all existing, here's what you need to know. So language is super important. So that, like you said, we don't privilege one space or over the other. But it's taking some adjustment. But folks are like, well, we're doing pretty well. We'll take it. We'll see how it goes.
I love, again, all of that. And I want to talk about eye contact in a minute because that's my personal pet peeve that I bring up probably weekly at Riverside with our staff. But I love just that you have tablets for a lot of reasons, because you could get cameras, because a tablet means I'm always able to see the people on Zoom. Like if I'm in the room, I'm able to see both crowds literally right there on Zoom and in the room. If it's just PTZ cameras, or any kind of camera, all I'm doing is looking into a robot, and I have to imagine the people behind the robot. But a tablet lets me, always puts the people front and center everywhere. That's just a subtle thing that I think makes a big difference.
The cool thing is you can have more camera angles.
Yeah.
So we actually, when we have an extra tablet, we put it on our organist's feet.
Yes.
Because we did that one time during Zoom, and people were like, that's cool. And I'm like, okay. so yeah, like if we have an extra tablet that day, we're like, let's put it on Andy's feet. And so it'll, they get to watch, the people on Zoom get to watch Andy's feet. The people in the sanctuary don't get to have the same kind of experience. So I think it's an interesting dynamic of what, like I've told people, you will not get the exact same experience. There's no way that's going to happen. But you can have similar experiences and meaningful experiences.
And you can make it so that the online experience doesn't just feel like you're peeking in through the window watching everyone else do it. It's nice when the people online get something that's like, oh, I get the foot cam. That's kind of exclusive, because
that's kind of cool.
The people in the room, they get all the warm fuzzies of being with people in the room. That's always been a draw.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So
well, the downside. Oh, good.
Well, eye contact.
I would say the downside is. Oh, okay. You go first. You go eye contact, and I'll talk about the downside of doing good.
Okay. Say how do you help other people leading worship, other people in your context? How do you help reinforce eye contact in this third space you're in? Because you have people on Zoom, people in the room. How do you keep that in your mind, rewire all of the biology that's been evolved in us as humans to look at other people in the room? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I think one of them was getting feedback, right? I mean, I think that was in all of this. While let's just be clear, it's not hard to be an expert in this in my denomination. So, and then if you draw it down to an older congregation, it's not that hard either. So, but at that same time, so I'm considered like the person who knows all this stuff. But we still got to get feedback, right? We still have to say, so how is this working? Is this like, are you hearing this? Am I looking? And so we do a evaluation pretty consistently. And one of them was just the angles of the cameras when we were trying to, again, I was trying to use the pulpit for the people in the sanctuary who missed having somebody in the pulpit. I'm like, well, that's not working for people, because if I have to raise the camera high enough, where I can actually have contact and see what my face is looking like, then you all don't get to see me because that camera is super high. And so we just adjusted. We're like, okay, clearly this is not working for Zoom people, so let's look at here. And then so now when I scan, the tablet's not as because it's in the middle of the sanctuary, it's not blocking anybody's line of sight in the church. So we set it so that if I'm looking at the congregation, I'm actually looking right at somebody. It's almost like another person in the sanctuary, so that my training and where I look now is just, it's like the other person there. So that's where the tablet really has helped us. And I can see my face in that tablet, so that I'm making sure that I'm paying attention to that space. Because the one downside of not leading the complete thing on my laptop is I don't get to just randomly scroll through and see who's here, see what's going on, interact on chat, all that. I'm just making sure that my image on there is helpful for people. So what we've told people is, as they're speaking up, and now we just have one center space, is just as you would at all times, just make sure see the tablet as another person in the sanctuary, seated in the sanctuary, so that you're making sure that you're looking at everybody at some point during their time speaking.
Yeah, and that's what I think is always important. Spend time making eye contact with everybody, which means you need to know where is everybody. And I think that's where
everybody,
a lot of times people who move to this hybrid thing, they only notice the people in the room, and then the camera is this like, oh yeah, are there people behind the camera? Maybe. Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah.
So it's that's good.
Well, and I think that if we that eventually will get old for the people who are on online, and I think part of it is, it's one thing if you say we're just streaming, and so all you really are getting is a view in, and you're kind of watching worship, which is, again, I'm not saying that's bad. I just think that's not something I want to do. But if you're going to claim hybrid, and you're going to claim trying to create a third space, then you have to take these other things more seriously. Otherwise, you're just streaming, and which, again, just claim that and do that, versus like we're trying to create this interactive thing. I'm like, well, but you're really not, because you're focusing and you're centering the space, the physical location, as the center of the space.